Thank you,
Thank you,
snowboarding.
snowboarding.
Hey friends, how you doing? My name is Chris Cracknell. I am your host for this podcast. Thank you, Snowboarding, uncovering UK snowboard culture, past and present. And we do this with the kind support of our friends at the Snowboard Asylum, who have been looking after snowboarders for the last 35 years and show no signs of letting any British snowboarders down anytime soon. So yeah, what's happening? The snow has started falling in Teen, which is very exciting. I'm going out there at the end of the month, or beginning of December, and very much excited about that. There's going to be a crew out there, and I'm heading out there to do some interviews, so that's really exciting. And glad that there's going to be some snow. I definitely want to go snowboarding. The last couple of years they've had crazy powder out there, so I'm going to be going to stay with our friends at the Dragon Lodge and make the most of that. Fingers crossed for powder, eh? But first, let's get on to this week's guest. This week's guest is someone that I know from the school gates. My daughter and her daughter in the same class at school in the same year, and her and her husband and some other friends were over for dinner one night, and I was sat next to her and we got talking about snowboarding, and I could see from the sort of the way her eyes lit up that maybe there was a bigger story in this. So I followed her on Instagram, and I am, as I say in this, I'm probably not her ideal follower on Instagram. But then I saw that she organises trips out to St Anton, these women-only snowboard trips, and at the time I thought that's pretty cool, and I saw that Burton hooked her up, and I thought that's quite interesting. And it wasn't until I started the podcast that I started thinking about the fact that people like Zoe are really important these days, because there isn't the independent shops, there aren't the scenes that there used to be, and people with a genuine love for snowboarding, organising snowboard trips and safe spaces for women to go out and enjoy themselves and to get into it, is a really important aspect of the snowboard culture these days. And I didn't know much about her history, but we dug in and I found out that she's got proper credentials from hanging out with French pros in Chamonix, and she's still as stoked on snowboarding as ever. So let's get stuck straight in with Zoe de Pass.
So I actually never went skiing or snowboarding as a kid. I was thinking about this on the way here. I think I watched it on telly. There was a programme on Channel 4 when I was about, I don't know, 12 or something. Do you remember?
Stupid.
Maybe. Was it on like a Saturday or
Sunday morning?
Yeah. And I watched it. And
do you know that was the most watched programme on Channel 4 at the time?
Really?
Yeah.
So what year was that then? Do you remember?
It was definitely being broadcast when I went to the British Champs in 95, or it was some of it was filmed there. So it must have been like 95, 96, 97. I think it had a run. I don't quite know.
Yeah.
Phil Young is still involved in action sports. Norm Ski.
Oh, yeah.
Who was one of the presenters.
Yeah.
He didn't come from, but he brought sort of something else to it. I'm trying to find a way to speak to them both.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
To talk about Ball Stewart, because it being the biggest watch thing on a Sunday morning on Channel 4.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have much choice back in that day. But...
Not much. It was Grange Hill.
But that's what I now know as manifestation was me watching snowboarding on the telly and having a thought, like, I have to do that.
Right.
And so I don't necessarily manifest things, but as I learn about it, I've realised, well, I've always called it eye on the prize. Right. So if I see something that I want to do, that's the prize, and I work out a way to do it.
Yeah.
So I watched snowboarding on telly and I was like, I've got to do that. I have to do that.
What do you think it was about?
I mean, it was probably all the hot young men doing it, if I'm honest. The boys in their baggy clothes. But also, I don't know, I'm up for stuff, right. I like being outside.
Yeah.
I've got pretty good balance. I it just looked amazing, and the mountains were just like, I just couldn't get over what they looked like. So
Where
I was
did
like,
you grow up?
So I grew up in London till I was about 12,
Yeah.
and then Surrey, like quite near Farnham and Guildford, till I was 18. Went to Leeds Uni, worked in London, and then went off to live in France. But what happened after watching this program, I was like, I've got to work out a way to try this sport. And then it wasn't until, then I started earning my own money. So I must have been like 16, 15.
Yeah.
And I then went to sixth form college in Godalming, and I met and I was like, right, I'm going to try and get these people, there's other people that in my network were talking about snowboarding.
Right.
And I was like, oh, should we go? And we were like, okay, yeah, let's go. And obviously, I guess this was 97, and we were like, you had to look at a brochure, or
yeah.
you had to, I had no idea. Someone was like, oh, Andorra's really cheap. So I think we probably all saved up like 250 quid or something.
It's crazy, isn't it? How cheap it would have been.
I know. And bearing in mind, I was always the only girl, like always.
Really?
So I'd only ever managed to go with guys, like for years and years and years.
Yeah.
So I was like, right, let's work out this snowboarding thing. Actually, that year I think I did have a friend, Sophie, who came. But
I was gonna say, is there something in that, as in there just wasn't much coverage of women snowboarding at the time? So if you don't see it, you don't know.
You don't see it. And again, like, not many of my girlfriends, it doesn't appeal to them snowboarding. Like, I've got a few skiing friends.
Yeah.
My one, like, really good girlfriend who's good a snowboarder as me is a teacher.
Right.
So she's tied to school holidays, which I can't at the moment do. But yeah, I was always the only girl. Anyway, so that's how it started. Then we just did the same, like saved up the money, got a group of people together, and then I went to uni, same, like I'd just work out a way to do it.
Where did you go to uni? Is that when you moved
Leeds?
to
I went to Leeds Uni.
So there would have been would you go to like the snowboard shops? There would have definitely been a couple in Leeds at the time.
Oh, I can't remember, most probably.
Gone and got excited about
and
stuff.
Oh yeah, like October, November. It's always that time where you're like,
oh man, this time of year is magical, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like, what am I going to wear this year? But yeah, I guess so. And then I'd go up to like snowboard shows in London, and I feel like it might be in a Battersea or somewhere.
Oh yeah, Boardex at Battersea.
Yeah.
Now that isn't something I've talked about on this.
Really?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. So
I mean, it had such a big reach at the time. Like the ski show. In fact, I was talking to someone yesterday about the ski show, and he was like, "Oh yeah, the ski show's just been recently." He's like a photographer that's now living in America. He's like, "Oh man, yeah, you went to the ski show the other weekend," and I was like, "Yeah, it's not the same.
No.
It's not the same because it used to be like the big event.
Yeah."
There was that would get you excited, and then when Boardex came along, like a snowboard only event that big in London was fucking amazing.
It was wicked. Yeah. So
That's funny. Our paths might have crossed because I worked at those.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I was up there, so we might have walked past each other 25 years ago.
Yeah, probably. No, I was just in it. I was just really interested in it, and like, I did a bit of skateboarding and just general. I just loved it. I just had to keep doing it again. Like Eye on the Prize, I just work out a way to do it, and then after uni, I knew I was going to do a ski season, but I kind of knew I had to do uni first because I knew there was a chance that I might not come back.
It's a bit of parental pressure.
Yeah, but also I was like, I'll just keep this going, and then after uni.
What did you study at university?
I studied 3D design, so product design, furniture design, like, three-dimensional design basically, which I loved. Like, I love it, and obviously I use it today. And then after uni, I got this amazing job in this amazing design studio with, he was a tutor at my uni, and he just spotted me as like someone who'd get on with stuff, gave me a great job, and I just kind of looked at him. I was like, oh, I think I have to go. I have to leave this amazing job, which every graduate dreams about.
Yeah.
And he was like, go. He was like, he'd done loads of sailing as a young person. He was like, look, I want you to stay in this job, but just go. So then I found on the internet a place to stay in November. So there was first of all, I decided to go to Chamonix for no reason other than someone once told me it was quite a good place. So I was just
That's
like,
as good a reason as any reason.
I'll just go to Chamonix.
I mean, actually, talk about go to the fulcrum of, kind of where everything happens in Europe, for sure.
Yeah. I also wanted to go there because it was a town and I wanted to kind of live in France. So I didn't necessarily want to live in a resort. I wanted to live like in France in a town.
Yeah, well, there's not that many. If you boil it down to that criteria, there's not really many. But that's similar to us ending up in Bourg Saint-Maurice, because that, again, that's a town. So at least, because, like when I did 2 seasons up in, one in Val d'Isère and one in Les Arcs, and it is like being in a fucking bubble for 5 months.
Yeah.
And then I know friends of mine really struggled to adjust at the end of a season, coming back to like the real world, live in Dagenham or somewhere, and be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's hard.
I've got no friends around me. I've probably got a booze habit.
Yeah.
Like, what do I do now?
Yeah.
Whereas at least when you live in a town, there's old people, like our landlord lady was, like a grandma. So you've got real people that sort of just living their lives around you.
Exactly.
It makes it feel a bit more normal.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I found a bed in a chalet with a company called Fresh Tracks with triple X's. And they, obviously, it was the 90s. Well, it wasn't, it was the 2000s.
Their logo. Did they have like some sort of robot thing in their logo?
Yeah. So they, I just turned up, basically. I just had a nitro snowboard, which was so cool. I love that board.
What were the graphics on it?
Pardon?
What were the graphics? Do you remember?
It was white. I can't remember. It was kind of had a robot or something on it. It was tiny though. It was like a 149.
Nice.
Anyway, so had a snowboard, turned up at this chalet, and looked for a job. Basically,
yeah.
I'd saved some money. Hadn't really got anywhere to live. Oh no, I had got somewhere to live. I was renting an apartment from someone, but it was the standard 1 bed, 6 of us in it.
Yeah. Classic.
Classic. And then just went round trying to find a job. Couldn't find a job, and then there was this one bar which was the coolest bar. It was called Goofy's. So anyone who was in Chamonix, probably from, I guess, I was there 2002, 2001 maybe. They would know about Goofy's. It was near the station. It was where it was a really good like melting pot of like professionals of all nationalities, of all like skiers and snowboarders.
Yeah. And
anyway, I got a job there and it was the best place to work. I loved it. I didn't start till 4:00. And then I'd start with like a massive meal. So I'd always have like one really good meal. All my mates would come in. Like, it was owned by some Swedish guys who were super generous. Like, it was just wicked. I loved it. And then you just go out after. And I went snowboarding pretty much every single day. Like,
so you were fired up for the snowboarding.
Yeah, I was not like...
Because a lot of people lose their way in those sort of jobs.
Yeah.
The nighttime becomes kind of the most important thing, and then time up the hill becomes a bit secondary.
Yeah, or like my housemate just started smoking loads of weed and didn't move. I was like, what are you doing? Like, why would you do that here? Go home if you... But I loved it. It was just so fun. And also because you live there, you can, if it's bad, you just go and stretch your legs, come back down. Like, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And then stayed there for 3 years.
Wow, working at the same place.
I did... So actually, by that point in the summer, the first summer I went off to Sardinia to work for Fresh Tracks on their like kite surfing, windsurfing holidays, like driving a minibus, making beds. Then went back to Chamonix, worked at Goofy's again, and I'd had always like little side hustles. So I launched like a t-shirt brand with a friend. Like had loads of like I wanted to build something within the kind of I'm still creative. I still like have this design qualification. So I would do like bits and bobs. I helped like my cousin with designing a chalet. I like just little creative things. And then what did I do and then one summer I stayed in Chamonix, and then I did another winter, And then it was like, I was torn. My parents were a bit like, Zoe, you have a first class degree. Like, what the fuck are you doing? And I was like, I love being a waitress. Leave me alone. But I kind of knew they were right. And I was kind of feeling like there was a big wide world. And I was living in a valley, which, you know, you don't see the world so much. You know,
we see the sun that much if
Yeah.
you're down in the valley, do you? Like for some of the winter.
Yeah, so I thought, I think it's time for me to come back, which was quite a shock because then I moved to Brick Lane. Got another job in design, but it was pretty hard adjustment. Like it was hard. I was not happy.
While
especially
you're in
this time of
Chamonix,
year.
would it have been? Did you sort of notice? So what I'm interested in is, like, were you aware of kind of the world of snowboarding, like snowboarding magazines, the British scene? Because obviously there was probably at that time there was a fair few people based in Chamonix as well. So were you sort of aware of that all going on? Because I was so in it.
Yeah.
I'm aware now that there were people that just didn't know about any of that stuff, that just liked doing it.
Yeah.
It wasn't all about the scene, but
I would say a bit of both. Like I actually rode a lot with the French guys, so the French pro guys.
Yeah.
Might not name drop them because.
Go on.
No.
Perfect place to name drop people.
Who did I? So there'd be, I guess, Babs Charlet. He would be.
I mean, legend.
So he would be someone I would snowboard with, and then
his brother Dudes as well.
Dudes, yeah. Who else was there? Laurent Gauguin. He was kind of good.
Yeah.
God, I can't remember anyone. Simon Favier, like those guys.
Don't know his name.
So they would be like, I mean, there would be lots of different groups I'd snowboard with, but I was like the fun girl from the bar, so they'd come snowboarding with, you know, and might get a free drink if they take me. But yeah, so I was kind of more part of the French, like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I wasn't a pro, but they were the riders I'd probably, the kind of circuit I'd know. I know that there was a guy, Scott Nixon, and he was Chamonix based.
Yeah,
he used to ride.
He was in Maribel, and then a load of British people went to Maribel.
Yeah.
And I think he was like, fuck this.
Yeah.
I'm going to Chamonix, and then was in Chamonix.
Yeah.
I think he was there with James Stentiford. Do you know him?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, they weren't my mates. Like, if they're listening to this and they're like, hang on a minute.
No.
We don't know her. But they would be like part of a, you know, there'd be crews around that you'd say hi to.
Yeah, because I think they sort of embedded themselves with the French lot a fair bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Scott's still there.
Is he? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's had a cool wife, Mags, I think she was
Mags,
called.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And then, I mean, you didn't get, like, I think a lot of the English pros were kind of more like Val d'Isère and, I don't know, like...
There was, probably at that time, there was a load of people in Maribel, loads of people in, I think Morzine was becoming a home for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Bourg-Saint-Maurice a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was good. I mean, Chamonix was slow on the snowboard. Like
It's because they didn't have a park.
They didn't have a park.
They were sort of reticent ever to get a park,
exactly.
weren't they? Or a pipe.
They had
I think
this
that turned a lot of people off.
Yeah, it did. And like but then they had people just build kickers and, you know, it was still fun. And then they had this tiny little snow park.
Yeah.
I want to call it Le Bois or something, I think it was. And like, it was just out of town. And I remember going there one day and just seeing this rail, and I was like, yeah, all right, go over that. Just, it's mental, isn't it, a rail? You just look at it and then you go over it.
Terrifying.
So it's easy once you commit to it. So I was like, oh, I could do rails. And then I remember, again, like hitchhiking back, this French pro snowboarder gave me a lift.
Yeah.
Didn't really speak much French. But then, you know, he'd be in the bar and be like, oh, do you want to go snowboarding? And be like, yeah, sure. And yeah, it was cool. Like,
were you interested in sort of freestyle and getting good at that sort of thing?
The tricks and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was weird because I was listening to one of your other podcasts about like competitions and getting a bus to a competition. There was this competition, I can't remember, because with your Chamonix lift pass, you get loads of resorts.
Yeah.
And like certain people they were like, oh, we're going to go ride Morzine. Like, do you want to come? I was like, yeah, wicked. Like, and we were quite a good crew that would just kind of get around. And there was some competition, I can't remember where it was, maybe like Clusa or something. And they were like, these guys I was with were entering the competition, and they were like, there's a girls' competition, Zoe, you got to enter. I was like, okay. And like, there was 3, like, I won the competition. I didn't do very much.
It was you that Chalet Girl was based on, not Jenny Jones.
It's me. Chalet Girl, they wrote it after me. But there was 3 people in the competition,
No way.
3 girls.
Yeah.
So, and it was, a couple of rainbow rails and a jump. I didn't do anything mad, but I was like, I don't know. I wasn't good enough. I got better as I've got older, I think.
Yeah.
But I just loved it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're good, does it? If you love it, like you want to do it. And that's what I say to any snowboarder or any person, like, oh, I want to do it. And I was like, yeah, but you really want to do it because you got to get through a pain barrier. And if you quite like the look of skiing or snowboarding, there's no point. You have to really want to do it otherwise.
Yeah, the barrier to entry is that you're going to be on your arse a lot to start with. But once it clicks, then you're going to have fun.
Exactly, yeah.
Sorry, I've been sidetracked by the Chalet Girl reference.
Chalet Girl, I know. That's still where I go.
What a great film.
Yeah, great film. I love it.
So you moved back to Brick Lane.
Yeah, pretty miserably. But I did have another pretty good design job, paid terribly.
Right.
And then and they were really, I was thinking about this the other day, like, I used to try and save some money, get to Chamonix.
Yeah.
And I would get the first flight back from Geneva straight into work.
Yeah.
Like in Old Street with my snowball bag. My boss, who's quite well known within the design world and has quite a very famous wife, would just be like, what's this? Like, oh, it's my snowboard. They're like, what do you, like, what? This is Old Street. No one's...
Yeah.
You see me lugging a snowboard on the tube in the morning. It wasn't... But, yeah, I just did it. And then obviously I met Ben, my husband, and he's really good snowboarder, which was...
So he's into it as well?
He's really amazing skier as well. He just does whatever he... Yeah, but that was pretty important, actually, to find a partner who could... snowboard.
100%.
I'd met him because I'd seen he posted about being in Chamonix on Facebook. I mean, he was a friend of a friend, and that's how I was like, oh, I used to live there, and Facebook had just come out or whatever. And so then I'd go with him. We went to Whistler, which I didn't love, actually. I didn't.
Just on holiday?
Yeah, I went for 10 days, and I heard all this stuff about Whistler and...
Yeah, I don't know if it takes a while to get under its surface or to find its secrets. I know my brother did 2 seasons. I think he did 2 seasons there. Raved about it. But then he was like, it's got the best park and pipe. Yeah. That's what he was down for. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what they all, basically a big contingent all went to Whistler, basically. Because it's
fun.
That's got the best facilities if we want to ride park and pipe.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So I think that's why they were raving on it, because of that.
Yeah. For me, it lacked atmosphere of the Alps, I think.
Have you been to Les Arcs 1950? Because that was designed by the same people, and that's got a bit of that kind of...
Yeah.
Feels like Legoland a little bit.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? It's mad. Yeah, it's just is that the one? Is it the one with all the apartments on a slope? Have you been to that? All the corridors are like a hill.
Oh, no, I know exactly where. That's in 1800s or 2000. Basically, loads of that. It was all built by the same person around the same time, wasn't it? And the fucking design of that place is mental.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? I know.
You get on the 3rd floor and then you walk down, but then you're on the 5th floor.
Yeah.
What's the Mobius loop or whatever it's called? That thing where you look like you're walking down the steps, but you're walking up.
Oh yeah.
Basically like that.
Yeah.
So you've been to Les Arcs much? Only because that's where we used to...
Yeah, I've been to Les Arcs. I like Les Arcs. I've been on holiday there, and then in Chamonix we went over. I think there was a snowbombing there as well I went to, or something
maybe.
like that, because I had some friends who were playing and we just drove there, I think. I remember driving, with my friend was driving, it was just blizzard. I was like, oh my God, we're going to die. And then we didn't die. And that was fun.
Oh, good. Did you and Ben not fancy sort of doing a season together somewhere?
Look, I would have been 100% up for it. I don't know. I think by this point, we're pretty having lots of fun in London.
Right.
Like I needed some money.
Yeah.
I got a good job. Also, I did genuinely miss like culture when I lived in the mountains. Like, I like creative, like mad stuff happening, and I think, it's a small bubble in a beautiful world and it's great, but I just like, even though I don't go to many museums, I like to know they're there, or shops, or just people, interesting people. And although I'm very, very happy to talk about snowboarding in mountains, like for hours, I also want conversations about just weird shit. So
yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that was one of the things that drew us back. I mean, it was like, the talk of having kids, but it's also just everything else that happens in life as well. Yeah. I mean, we swung the other way and then didn't go sort of after we sold the business and the house, then we didn't go for ages. So we swung too much the other way.
Yeah.
Where it's like, go and see loads of bands and stuff and do that. But I was definitely like missing snowboarding. And now we're just trying to get to a place where I get enough snowboarding to fulfill that thing. But then I can also go and see bands and do stuff here, or, just to be around people that's the whole subject of this conversation isn't snowboarding.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I don't know if we got burnt out on that, because running the chalet, which I absolutely loved and certainly appealed to a lot of my skill sets, you do have the same conversation, like with every fresh group of guests, and the same thing. And it's, as I also have other things that I want to achieve in life. Yeah. And not to say that I didn't love doing that.
It's repetitive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as you say, it is a small bubble in a beautiful place.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want that?
Exactly.
But then,
it's
like
it's balance. Like, obviously, life is everything. In life is balance.
Yeah.
But I don't think I don't know. I like other stuff as well as snowboarding. So you just got to work out a way and earn enough money to be able to do it when you want and design a life around it.
So on that tip,
segue, set you up there, didn't I?
Yeah, I know. You've done this before. So you organise trips now, women-only trips?
Women-only ski and snowboard trips,
How did that start? Or what was the impetus to start that?
So how did that start? So obviously, what was I going to say? I had... I mentioned Ben, but then obviously we had 3 children. Yep. 2 children at the time. We would find a way to go snowboarding. And actually, when around this time, so in 2014, 15, I set up an Instagram account called Dress Like a Mum, which was all about, it was kind of making a stand about a stereotypical mum and like being judged. I got judged for like wearing cool clothes. Well, in my opinion, they're cool. Maybe other people might not.
Who was judging
you? Yeah, they were like just judging me. Like, women came up to me and said, you don't dress like a mum. And I was like, it really stuck with me. And I was like, yeah, what the fuck is a mum supposed to wear? Like,
quite, yeah.
So anyway,
pajamas
this exactly, what is this stereotype you've created by through this comment? But so I'd set up Dress Like a Mum, and so I was like one of the first people, like British mums on Instagram, making this kind of claim, like, I dress like a mum, you can too.
Yeah.
I do all this stuff, I go to festivals, I Anyway, through this business I set up, I was able, like, holiday companies were like, would you want to go on holiday? I was like, yes. They were like, will you review the holiday? Like, da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
So when the kids were young, we got to go on like Mark Warner holidays, and they were
Sweet.
in return for like me promoting the holidays, which was really good, because if you've got young children and you're going to these hotels with childcare, it was just like amazing. So it was a really good partnership, because I was showing like parents how they could snowboard if they had that kind of money, how they could snowboard with the childcare, and it was amazing. So
how sort of deep in do you have to be? Like when you started that Instagram account, how do you sort of think, right, I've got to get to X amount of followers before stuff starts happening? Like, or do you just doing it because you're like, this is something that I like doing?
I did it.
Or did you go like, I want to do this because I know what the sort of, I know what I can build out of this?
Yeah. So it's so after before I set up Dress Like a Mum, I was working at a design agency on digital strategy, and they had a big client who wanted to talk to like modern parents.
Right.
And I said, look, I was doing on the research, and I said, this is where your modern parents are. They're going to come on Instagram. Grandmas are on Pinterest.
Yeah.
This is, if you want to reach this audience, this is how you do it.
Yeah.
And then I went on maternity leave. Anyway, I didn't want to go back to my job. So I was like, right, I'm going to set up a company consulting brands on how they can target modern parents. And I was like, this Dress Like a Mum idea happened, and I was like, this can be a great case study. I'll just, of how I can show what modern parents want to do, and I'll go and work with big brands like M&S, whoever it is, and they'll say, look, this is how you can do it. Which I did once, and then Dress Like a Mum became more lucrative than, well, because I was the first to do it, because I knew it was going to happen, because I'd done this strategy. Like they it just kind of took off. So I didn't ever intend to become an influencer at all. Like, I'm pretty...
Do you sit well with the term influencer?
Not really. I don't...
Because it sounds to me, it's more like I had a PR company that morphed into an Instagram account, but you're still sort of doing that profession as such, rather than, you know, like an influencer who's like, I'm having a cup of coffee. And
no. So there's a lot on... So because I came with it as a brand, right?
Yeah.
So there's huge parameters around my Instagram account, which is detriment to its engagement and following, but it's much better for my life. And I've never... So none of my children's names are there.
Yeah.
Ben's never on it. I don't talk about health. I don't talk about money. I don't talk about diets. I don't talk about families, friends, like anything personal.
Yeah.
You have to know me if you want to find that information. So it's a really ring-fenced business.
Yeah.
And obviously I've got, you know, I can do digital strategy and consult with brands and blah, 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 which is the other part. And I've also got a whole other business, which I'm sure we'll get onto. But the Dress Like a Mum it's just a great business. It's like, you know, I create adverts and content for brands I align with. Like, it's brilliant. I love it. It's just me. I'm the overhead.
Yeah.
The opportunities that have come with it have been incredible. Like, you know, we can go snowboarding, like we didn't earn enough money, but they'd pay for us to go, and I'd trade off with something. A
bit like this, really.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I can't afford to go snowboarding. Yeah. But this takes me snowboarding. Exactly.
And also, likewise, I have it with festivals. You know, I was showing women they can take their kids to festivals. Festivals like, do you want a festival ticket? I was like, of course I want a festival ticket. Yeah. I can't afford £600 plus spending money, but
fucking green with envy when I didn't go to Glastonbury the other year. And you're like, I'm going.
Yeah, I love Glastonbury. That's going on sale soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, with the women's trip, back to the point. So obviously I was taking the kids, but it was getting more and more difficult. They were getting older. We had a third kid, and then I went out. I had a friend who lives in old school friend lives in St. Anton in Austria, and she was like, "Do you want to come over?" I was like, "I've got the baby." I was like, "Yes, desperately." So I went over with baby number 3, who was, I don't know, 9-10 months, with my snowboard, buggy, pushchair, baby.
Wicked.
Went over to see her. I had a nanny kind of person like this woman, again, I
Yeah.
collaborated with her. She looked after the baby. I went snowboarding, came back, breastfed the baby, went back up the slopes.
Yeah.
And it was on that trip in 2018, we came up with this. We were like, women don't go skiing in groups like men do. Like,
No.
It's happening more and more, but it's not something, like for me to get a group of 8 women, like 4 women, even 2 together to go snowboarding, it's pretty hard. Like, I don't have many mates, you know, I have to really beg them. No one would really want to go. They just, I'd have to make, like, they don't ski or snowboard. They just don't, it's not what they want to do. So we came up with this idea of having a kind of a holiday, basically, where women could come on their own, or with a friend. It was all for women, all different levels, and we'd organise everything, because I think a lot of women who come are parents, so they just deal with the mental load the whole time. And that was something we were gonna take on. So we set up the Women Who Ski and Snowboard holidays. Her husband owns a chalet company called Kaluma Travel, Kaluma Ski, and so they agreed to like take on our idea. Later did I find out Andy was like, yeah, really didn't think it was going to work. I was like, excuse me, but like, let us do it. And it was absolutely amazing. So the first trip we had 24 women, I think. We had a Shemi Alcott came, who's a professional, Olympian skier. And we had complete mix of people. So we had a woman who had never been to the mountains before. She wanted to take her kids skiing, but thought she better try it before. So she came. We had like amazing like skiers, people in skiless marriages, people who
skiless marriages. I've not heard that one before.
And it was just brilliant.
How do you even do that?
Have a skiless marriage? I don't know. Well, you just come on our trips instead. But it's so funny. It was so good. And we both, Lucy and I, were like, wow, this is wicked. We couldn't even believe anyone came, you know. We were just so humbled by it.
How did you reach those people? And just through your Instagram?
Through my Instagram, yeah. And then we were like, right, we'll do it again. And we did it again. And then COVID happened, so we couldn't do it for a year. And then we did it again after COVID. You know, it was, God, the mission of like jabs and masks and all sorts of, God knows, it was admin was nightmare. But and now, so last season we did a trip in January. We had 34 women, and then we do one in March when January sells out, and that was 24 women, and it's amazing. Like, you know, these women come, and I really like it when they come on their own, because you're out of your comfort zone, and you're, you know, the people who come are so interesting. So we've had like dairy farmer who looks after like 800 cows. You know, you've got architects, you've got criminal psychologists, you've got a 26-year-old, you've got a 50-year-old, like, and you just have a chat. You go skiing, we divide everyone into groups, snowboarding, skiing, you know, the tourist board are really on board with it, because St Anton.
Snowboarders and skiers apart.
Pardon?
You split the snowboarders and skiers.
We split them up. Well, it's up to them, but
that's fair enough.
Normally I take the snowboarders if they're fast enough. And it's just super fun. Yeah, like the tourist board give us half price lift passes because they just want to get more women to the resort.
Yeah, totally.
It's just, I freaking love it. It's like so fun.
Yeah, it's funny, just as we were sort of talking before we started, you know, it used to be shops. You know, there was the British Snowboard Association trip, but it was generally, you know, it was normally people that had something else in snowboarding that was the community builder of, if you had a shop, you'd organise a trip because they're your customers. They're going to come and buy stuff from you, of course. You know, they're going to come into the shop just to hang out. So all these shops had a community around them, but because, you know, obviously the internet and people selling direct to consumers and stuff, that the independent shop has died. And it is like, well, where are these communities being built now?
Yeah.
And like, you know, I don't necessarily know because I'm not in one.
Yeah.
I'm in the sort of overarching British scene, but
yeah,
is that still relevant? You know, like, I'm not necessarily bringing any money to snowboarding. Do you know what I mean? Whereas actually, through you doing what you're doing, you're actually getting people together, getting people excited. Those people are going to go and buy stuff.
Yeah.
Hopefully tell their friends, so your trips will get bigger and bigger if you want them to get bigger.
Yeah.
And that enthuses people to go snowboard, and that's what sort of snowboarding needs.
Yeah.
So I think it's quite an interesting thing, like your angle on it and what you're doing.
Yeah, it's a community, and it's also giving.
That's what it always was. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly,
it's a community, and it's nice to see that there are still.
Yeah.
It hasn't gone. Do you know what I mean? Like, it might be smaller, but there is still these communities, and there's probably going to be more of them popping up as, you know, you and people like you go, oh, well, I've got a group I can tap into.
Yeah.
And I only need like 0.1% of them to sign up and go, yeah, I fancy a bit of that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you've got then a community within a community
Exactly.
of people that.
And then now, you know, a lot of people met on our trips go off on their own, or they meet up in London. Like, it's just friendships are formed. And yeah, do you know what? It's so good. Like, the people leave, because snowboarding as well is, I think, like, amazing for your brain and your mental health.
Yeah.
You know, you're at the top of this beautiful mountain and you're just thinking about the moment quite often. And I get a lot of creative ideas when I'm snowboarding, when I give my brain that, like, just space to open.
Yeah.
And also, you know, and all the women on the trip, they get that experience, you know, like, we had the most epic, we had a snowboard guide last season, had the most epic powder day. It was just amazing. Like,
Did
and
you go over to Steuben? Have you been over there?
I have been over there. Yeah, we weren't there on the boards, but it was just amazing. And yeah, and women just leave with their heads a bit higher, just a bit more like, yes, like, ready, you know, I've cleared my head. I'm like out of the rat race, because you just get, you know, so bogged down with day to day, and they just go, it's so good. I love it. I love it.
And when I think I noticed on your trip last year, obviously I follow you on Instagram, even though I'm not at all your target audience.
You're my 2% men, which are basically mates, or people feel obliged to follow me.
Quite like it though. So it's an insight into a world that is not my world. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what was the point? Oh yeah. I sort of noticed you were tagging Burton in, so I was like, I've done something with Burton.
Oh my god!
How dare! Like, my instant, as I was saying, you know, like the 20-year-old protective of snowboarding at all costs was like, how the fuck?
Oh my
got
god!
Hooked up with Burton, like,
mate, this is like the best thing ever.
So who they reach out to you, or do you reach out to them?
So what happened? So we were living in Peckham, and I remember this day so clearly because it wasn't long into setting up Dress Like a Mum.
Yeah.
Basically, Burton, and obviously I was still really into snowboard, and also Burton.
Yeah, you know it.
I know it all. Yeah. So I was looking for a coat, and they have obviously coats that aren't snowboarding jackets, whatever. Anyway, so I was like, oh, that's like a parka jacket, perfect for like pushing the buggy, whatever. So I sent them a message, and I was like, hi, I was wondering if you'd be interested.
So when you say send them a message, who did it?
I emailed the marketing team, I think, PR team. Just
sort of Burton Europe.
Yeah, Burton Europe, okay, And I just said, oh, I was wondering if you'd be interested in sending me this jacket. I think I could, you know, do really well. Anyway, they were like, yeah. I was like, what? They've replied. Amazing. So they sent me this coat, just this black parka. And I wore this jacket, and obviously all the mums following me were like, that's the perfect jacket.
Yeah.
And they sold out the jacket.
No way.
So it was like just a kind of coat, like a long black coat with it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was like, oh, thanks so much.
But good tech, like, do you know what I mean? That's what you want. If you're pushing a trolley in the fucking piss.
Exactly.
Rain,
you want a really decent jacket. And I was like, I know where to get them. So then they were like, oh, thanks so much, Zoe, if you ever want anything. And I was like, well, actually, I'm going snowboarding with the kids.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, we'll put you on our like Burton Riders offer.
Yeah, pro
thing. Yeah, I was like, fucking hell. I was like, oh my god, Ben. And they were like, what do you want? And I was like, are you fucking serious? And so I basically got to choose a snowboard, bindings, full kit,
Sweet.
helmet, ski suits for the kids. I think Ben got something, boots.
Yeah.
I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Anyway, I remember it so clearly because this Burton delivery arrived at my house in Peckham.
God,
and it was like, and Ben was looking at me, he was like, did you ever fucking think you'd be a 4-year-old mum? Finally, you're sponsored by Burton. I was literally crying. Like, I'm actually feeling quite emotional here. But I was like crying with like, I just literally shaking with joy. I could not believe my luck. I literally could not believe my luck. And and so I just got all this. It was just fucking amazing. But they obviously had seen like the benefit of having maybe not a pro, because I'm far from being a pro snowboarder, but someone within my demographic to tap into an audience that they'd probably forgotten about, you know? So Burton aren't probably thinking, oh, I must market our products to the mums. Like, but here's this London mum wearing this coat, selling out this coat, like no one can get it, you know, importing it from Germany. Let's give her all this stuff. And I have to say it's got a bit less over the years what I get. Like, I don't get all that stuff, but obviously I've still got my Burton snowboard and leopard print bindings. Oh my god, they're so good. But but anyway, so then I just kept the relationship, and they were like, oh, do you want some more kit this year? I was like, amazing. And then actually, you know, this was ages ago, like 8 years ago now. Then they'd just give me a rider's discount, which was like 50%. And actually now again they see the benefit, so we have a goodie bag on our trip, and last year they gave like everyone
brilliant
little like tote bags and some socks or something. I went out when I was flying to Innsbruck. I went and said hello to the marketing team, who are both like women, and they loved it. So I'm quite proactive in keeping like my network, and hopefully I'll ride with those guys. And now the person I emailed about the jacket is like global head of Burton marketing. So when I wouldn't say we're mates, but we've certainly got each other's contacts.
Sure.
And they've been really supportive. Actually, they're like really up for it. And
see, that's interesting, because it used to be like you had to sort of be a snowboarder, get good at snowboarding to some level where you're going to get photos in magazines or video, and then a video part, and on and on and on before you'd even sort of approach someone. And it's just interesting how actually for brands that need to reach people, I mean, essentially it's just a different arm of marketing, and the whole thing's changed,
exactly.
I don't know if, I mean, fuck me, at the time everyone in our scene was sponsored. They were giving, they must have been giving away so much kit, but they were selling so much kit that it didn't make any difference. And I mean, for years I was just given, and I wasn't good. I just happened to be around and be funny in the bar, I guess, more than anything else, because I wasn't a great snowboarder. I didn't fucking buy anything for years.
Yeah, but you probably were to some extent an influencer, because you were.
Well, do you know what? I was thinking about this, because
here we go.
My mate Fred ran West Beach. Do you remember that clothing brand? He did West Beach for a while. If this is a parcel for Chris Moran, I'm going to lose my mind. All right, mate. Okay. Nice one.
There you are.
That's a space. No, the first guest of the season, Chris Moran, he gets his post sent here, and whenever I'm doing an in-person interview, something will fucking snowboard or something will take.
Really?
Actually, they're both for me.
That's so funny.
My friend Fred ran West Beach, and I met in, like, because we had the chalet, obviously we had a very small audience, but a constantly changing audience, and we'd go with people up the mountain, and we were called opinion leaders. And I guess that was the precursor to
influencer.
An influencer.
Yeah,
just because we had an audience, and they would see us in the kit every day. And if it didn't work, if we were slagging it off, this stuff's shit. We've been given it doesn't work. Like, that would go direct to an audience.
Exactly.
So, they made sure we got good kit.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, and for a brand to give a few jackets away, it's not actually a big expensive. I mean, depending on how big or small the brand is, but for Burton to give me a jacket, it's nothing for them. Like, really, it's nothing. It's no cost. Whereas and then like you said, like when I worked at Goofy's, I'd be given jackets because I was like there in the season, wearing the kit, testing it out.
Yeah,
it was a brand association, and it was like, oh, I like your jacket. Where'd you get it? Tell someone, they buy it. It's would you recommend it? Like, it's exactly.
Just the mechanics of it's changed essentially, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's
Are you? I mean, one of the things in an episode that you get to choose the opening song to your, obviously the music for your section in a video part would be something that sums you up. I mean, did you ever watch Snowboard video? Did you ever sort of get geeky on it like that? Like, and do you have a song from a snowboard movie that that's the one?
No, I mean,
you can take some. We don't have to put this in, and you can have a think about that. But you do need a song.
I need a song. I remember my mate Steve, who's an amazing snowboarder. He used to try and teach me to do 360s to Baby Love, like Baby Love. He was like, "You've got to pop when you hear Baby Love." I was like, "You're so weird."
That's a fucking weird flex for anyone, for a snowboarder, especially.
I know. Let me have a think. I'll have a think about that. But yeah, I did watch snowboard videos, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd watch them now, but I don't know, I do watch them. I'm trying to get my kids into it now.
Are they biting?
They're keen, yeah. They're very keen. They're very, very keen. But again, it's money, isn't it? When you've got 3 kids, you've got to get them, got to pay the money. But the other thing that we didn't talk about, which I said I'd mention, is that I have a sunglasses company.
Yes, your sunglasses company, yes.
Yeah, and the reason I set up the sunglasses company is so that I can one day sell it and buy a ski chalet. That's the mission. However, I've slightly changed the mission in that I've decided I don't actually want to own the ski chalet. I just want to have the means to go to a ski chalet for long periods of time in the winter. And back to the point of me and Ben doing a ski season, I'm thinking when I'm like early 60s.
Have you got a passport that can cope with that?
I'll work around it.
Yeah, I can figure that one out. Tell me about your sunglasses brand then, because I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, because sunglasses were sort of fairly traditional for a long time. There's Ray-Bans, and Oakley were kind of doing new stuff with new shapes, but then all of a sudden, like the wraparound, like Arnett, and Blackflies sort of came along, and Dragon, and just fucking the whole thing changed, like in the early 90s.
I used to love Dragon. I had Dragon goggles. They were so cool.
Well, that leads me on to like, why don't you, or have you thought about getting into kind of goggles and sort of more mountainy styled sunglasses? 100%. I don't know what your sunglasses look like, to be
so my sunglasses are quite high quality. They retail about 100 quid.
Yeah.
And they're mainly for women. I mean, they're kind of gender neutral, but they're mainly colourful women's sunglasses. They are to wear to have fun in. Like, they're all named after female musical icons. So the premise is that you're packing your shades, you're going to have fun outside. I like being outside. I like music.
Yeah.
And I like snowboarding. I would love, and probably I will definitely one day, do ski goggles. I have looked at it. The thing is, because it's just me and I'm quite small, it's always minimums. So I would have to design and order like 600 pairs of snow goggles.
Yeah.
And in order for me to sell that many in a season, because they, in 4 years' time, they kind of, there's a date. They look a bit dated.
Yeah, sure.
The trends change.
Yeah.
So, it's 100% on my radar. But sunglasses, I think I mentioned earlier, I've always wanted to have my own business. Like, I have a degree in 3D design. I like all the things I just mentioned. I met someone who could help me with the production side of things.
Yeah.
And so I've just gone for it. Like, sunglasses are actually a perfect product for me. Like, they just tick all the boxes. But I would love to do ski goggles, but it's just time, money, quantities. I'll get there though.
Fair enough. And that idea of owning a chalet somewhere, having done that,
Yeah,
I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Les Arcs, love Bourg Saint-Maurice. You know, like, it is probably the place in the world where I feel most at home, more so than here, I would say.
yeah,
But once we didn't, because obviously it was just like, where are we going to go? We're going to go there because it's work. You know, there's always a reason to go there because we've got the business and everything. So that's just where we'll go, and we'll go snowboarding. You know, we'll spend a month down there or whatever. Once we sort of lost that tie, being able to just fucking put a pin in a map and go and explore some new places was incredible. And I know that's that is a fortunate position to be in, but all of a sudden it was like, well, I've only been to Austria sort of on the board test in May.
Yeah.
So how about we go somewhere kind of in January and see what that looks like, and go to places like Ischgl where nobody goes off piste and they all stop for like 3 hours for lunch to get pissed up.
Yeah.
So you got the whole mountain to yourself, and there's just powder in everywhere. Like every little corner, there's some powder down there.
Yeah.
And no one's touching it. Whereas in Les Arcs, the whole thing would have been rinsed.
Yeah, same as Chamonix.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you like go to these other places and see new horizons, and it's like, wow, this is, there's definitely something in keeping on exploring.
I think so. And like, I was working out where I'd buy my ski chalet.
Go on.
And then this is kind of when I decided not to buy the ski chalet. This is quite hypothetical, but this is my reasoning.
It's not hypothetical.
It's not hypothetical, as it's eye on the prize. So then I was like, I would want it somewhere I could get to with public transport.
Yep.
Because you want to. So St Anton's amazing. St Anton's is extortionate. Like, it's so expensive, but it's so easy. Like, I get the flight at
Innsbruck,
6:45 to Innsbruck.
Yeah.
And from Innsbruck to St Anton, you're basically in the resort before the kids start school. You're like, it's amazing. Like, it's amazing. I wouldn't want to own somewhere. I think the people are a bit, money orientated. The snowboard scene's not massive.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Then I was like, the trouble with Chamonix, which is great, there's not actually a public transport. It's quite awkward to get from Geneva, Chamonix, or like at certain points.
Yeah.
But there is a station. But again, Chamonix is not great, in my opinion, for a week, especially with kids, because you've got to get the bus to the different areas.
Yeah.
So that's not working. I don't know. There's like Morzine for me is just too English. Also, I think the waiters are so fucking rude and I thought the ski school was so bad. I will never.
What's the big restaurant in the middle of
Morzine?
The Etal, and we went there. And I mean, I speak some French.
Yeah.
And I was ordering in French, and she just looked at me and said, "I'll just speak English." And I was like, "Fuck you."
I know. It's like, they hate us.
I know.
What have I done?
Well, this is the thing. Like, having been in France for so many years, and actually then going to Austria, and the Austrians are like, "Welcome."
Yeah.
And you're like, "Fucking, they actually like us coming."
And the lifts are really efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. We went to Morzine a few years ago, and I was a bit disappointed, actually. Like, just the vibe, the people. I was just like, come on.
Well, we had a chalet there for 3 seasons, and we bailed on it in the end because when it's good, but when it's bad, like the fucking season we had where it hardly snowed at all, it was just raining in the valley all the time.
Yeah.
And there's not that difference in elevation that it gets. Like in Borg, it's like, well, if it's pissing down in Borg, well, that's all right, because I've got to go to the shops. I don't have to dig my car out.
Exactly.
But at 2,000 metres or 3,000 metres, it's dumping.
Yeah.
And, and you can see the line. So, yeah, we sort of bowed on Morzine, even though, everyone raved about it. I did do a season there, and it was sort of fun, but, the attitude of...
Yeah.
And just everyone being English just wasn't what I was...
Same.
It's not what I'm in it for. I'm in it for the travel and the mountains and the different accents and
Yeah.
You know, the exoticness of it.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it felt like, you know, when I was 18 and saw, you know, one of those Greg Stump movies. It's like, fucking hell, I want to go there because it's different to here.
Yeah. I think so. Anyway, and then I had this other idea of renting an apartment for a whole season.
Yeah.
So say it'd be like, I've literally no idea. So it's like 20 grand for a whole season. You book it as a family, like Christmas, half term, Easter, and a couple of weekends, and then you kind of let your mates use it. And then I was like, but you'd like say, oh look, give me a couple £100, go out with your mate for the weekend, and then that would hopefully pay for itself. That was my other idea.
Kind of starting a travel company.
Yeah, I know. How can I? But do you know what? Now I'm pretty happy with how I've got things at the moment. So I'll be going twice, like definitely going in January and March.
Yeah.
Like within that, I can get some, like maybe I can wear some clothes, like ski wear clothes.
Yeah.
Make some money while I'm out there. So I'm in a pretty niche position where I'm like a early 40-year-old woman from England snowboarding. Like it's not, there's not many people competing with that. And I'm doing it to a point where I'm bringing 50 women with me every time I go. Like,
yeah, that's currency, isn't it?
It's an unusual position to be in. So with the women's trips, like it's not a money earner for me. It's not, I don't earn any money. I get to go snowboarding for free twice a year. I can maybe get some brand deals, and actually the long game would be, any brands listening, would be for them to pay me to do a trip. Yeah. You know, so Lucy and I would earn our money that way. Would be, I don't know, whoever it is, could be a car brand, could be a clothes brand, could be anyone, but we've got the infrastructure to put on a trip for brands and then get some money that way. I haven't done that yet though.
I just love the fact that about getting excited about getting some new kit turning up. Yeah. You know, like that. I mean, still for me, I mean, by the way, if anyone's listening, certainly if you're at Volcom, I need some new clothes.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? There's still that thing of getting some kit.
Love it.
It's just the best
feeling. I think there's a lot of like, I don't know if you talked much about this with any of the other guests, but the sustainability aspect of snowboarding and like that's something I'm getting quite interested in as well.
Well, I've seen, you know, actually I have, you know, I do follow you on Instagram, and I have seen, I was quite impressed actually when, you know, you work with Oxfam and you're doing more stuff about like secondhand. It's not just new stuff, because it's a bit like, fucking hell, like, do we need more people telling us that new stuff is the best thing?
Yeah, exactly.
And it really isn't. Like, everyone knows that. Yeah. And then you were doing stuff with Oxfam about second, and that was like, actually, this is cool. This isn't what I thought it was.
No, and vintage for ski wear is amazing.
Yeah.
Especially kids stuff, because I'm about to load some of our kids stuff, because it, you know, you grow out. They've got it for 2 or 3 seasons, and then they grow out. However, plug for Burton, they do stuff amazing in their new jackets. Well, not even their new jackets, but they've got a seam that you cut, and it makes the arms longer for the kids. Yeah, it's really clever. So you buy an age 6-year-old jacket, but it will pretty much last until they're 9, because you just trim out the seam, let it long. It's brilliant.
Especially like snowboard. I mean, if it's getting used 1 week a year for probably a couple of hours a day.
Yeah, it's really good.
This stuff still looks brand new over time, doesn't it?
Yeah. And actually there's a company called Eco Ski. They rent ski clothes by, I think, 4 days you can rent it. And even places like John Lewis, they have a rental department where you can rent ski suits.
I mean, Ellis Brigham's used to do it back in the day. They don't do it anymore, but they used to. I remember, I think when I was going away with the school, there was a rental thing, and I'm sure it was Brigham's. It
can work really well, and especially if you can rent at the resort, you know, if you can pre-book, like, and you know what you're getting, you know, and it's more, because the rental market is so much, it's better now, you know, it's more, people use it more, rent clothes, I'll rent a dress if I'm going to an event, like, it's easy, it's tried and tested. If you can book in, I'm going to wear that really cool blue ski suit, and it's there at St Anton to pick up and wear, and just leave it there, it's perfect. makes a lot of sense. You get new kit to yourself every season, but you don't actually own it.
Yeah, and you don't have to carry it around.
You don't have to carry it around. You don't have to. Yeah, it's much better for the environment. You know, no one needs new kit every season.
No, you're right.
But it's fun to wear it.
As much as it's nice getting
Yeah, yeah. But you could just, rent some new trousers now,
Yeah, 100%.
It's fun.
So tell me, try and sum up. So there's two things, as I think we're sort of coming to the end of our arc, is what snowboarding means to you in your life and moving forward, maybe with looking forward to getting your kids into it. And then just why someone who hasn't been snowboarding or hasn't been for a long time should go snowboarding.
I mean, snowboarding means clearly quite a lot to me because I still do it.
Do you know what? When you came round for dinner that once,
yeah,
and I was sat next to you, and I don't think this was the opening line, but I was like, so what do you do or whatever? Or we got talking about snowboarding or something. You were like, I like snowboarding. I like getting pissed. I was like, now, funnily enough, they're two of my favourite things too. And I straight away I was like, okay, you're like, that is what when I was 19.
Yeah.
Dota 2, that was all I wanted to do. Do you know what I mean? I have other things now, but when I was 19, I was like, that is it.
Snowboarding, getting pissed.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm not going to shy away from the fact that I do enjoy both of those things.
Yeah.
And I think that with snowboarding, like, I guess typically, or maybe like the stereotype would have been that I would have grown out of it. And I haven't, I've grown into it even more. I fucking love it. Like, if someone asked me what my ideal weekend would be, it would be snowboarding.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll do everything to get there. And obviously, I have. So I've set up a company that allows me to go snowboarding. I wouldn't be able to afford, or even, I don't even know how I'd get it past my whole family. Like, I'm going snowboarding on my own now. It's going to cost me X amount of money, which would be the money we'd spend on a family holiday, but I'm going to go on my own. So I needed a solution to work out how to do it. So hence the women who ski trips. So yeah, it means loads to me. Like, I have tried skiing as well. Again, following a stereotype of what a 40-year-old woman should be doing. Should be skiing, not snowboarding. So boring. I mean,
it's just not the same, is it?
It's not the same. I was quite surprised how easy I found it, as in, like, I've never skied before. Like,
I mean, the mechanics,
similar.
You're stood separately, you're stood differently, but the mechanics of how skis work is the same as how snowboarding
exactly
works.
Yeah, but I'd like to be able to do both. Like, it would be fun. But yeah, so I just love it. I absolutely love it. I don't know, all of it. I like the getting up in the morning. I like the adventure. I like having a beer at the end of it. I like the Ep3 ski. I like all of it. I love going up in chairlifts, having a chat, spotting things, looking out. Like, I love absolutely every bit of it. It's just wicked. Anyone starting snowboarding, like I said earlier, I think you've got to really want to do it. But if you do want to do it, just find a way. Like, you're probably the only one stopping yourself doing it. So you just got to find a way. And if it's money or, there's save some money or I don't know, make a plan.
What's the sort of return on your investment if you do sort out the money and get yourself there? Like, what can you expect from it?
Euphoria, in my opinion. Like, it's just being outside, like the fresh air, like the mission, the sense of, like, getting out your comfort zone, of, like, getting down a mountain, like, just, I don't know.
Can eat apple strudel at lunchtime.
Yeah, strudel. The band show. Like, just, I don't know. I get a lot from it, but I love being in the mountains. Just, you feel so small up there. It's such a big world. It's just so, and it's so beautiful. Like, I love it. All of it.
So there you go. That was Zoe De Pass. And I'm really pleased that we did this episode. I know Zoe's not necessarily kind of a known part of UK snowboarding culture, but she's definitely adding something and getting people going snowboarding, getting people excited for snowboarding. And I think as an industry, more than ever, we need these people that are outside of like the sort of smaller scene, as it were. And yeah, she's just really good company and really fun. And I really enjoyed actually getting to know her a bit, having seen her on the school run for the last few years. So yeah, thank you, Zoe. There will be links to all her bits and pieces, her sunglasses company, her Instagram account, and to her trip that she organises. They'll all be in the show notes. So go and check them out if you want to know more about Zoe. So yeah, thank you, Zoe, so much for doing that. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'd love to go and see you on the mountain somewhere. That would be awesome. So what else is happening? In other podcast news, the Ep3 podcast, we had it with Tim last week. We didn't actually get round to talking to Tim about his the Ep3 podcast that he does with Jenny Jones and Ollie Peart, but that is still going strong. They've managed to stick to their intention of putting out weekly episodes. So full respect, because I was doubtful, let's call it that. And so you can find that on all podcast platforms. And also a really interesting one popped up today. Matt Barr's Looking Sideways podcast did a rerun of a episode he put out about 4 years ago with a guy called Greg Stump. And the keener-eared listener will certainly have heard some of our guests so far talking about Greg Stump and his movie The Blizzard of Ours, which is a cringily title for a ski movie, but we are talking about the late 80s, and his films were influential over quite a big portion of sort of the old school snowboard scene, and certainly introduced a lot of people to snowboarding. And the snowboarding section in it is all-time epic. And the last shot, a guy's doing like a big suitcase method, but he's like reaching up with one hand and it hits this chord, and it's like 80s music from ZTT, which is Trevor Horn's label. So it's Frankie Goes to Hollywood, it's Propaganda, it's Act. And this section just switched so many people onto snowboarding. Might have been one of the biggest kind of influences, almost up there with Marty McFly and his skateboarding scene in Back to the Future. And so Matt had put that up on his Looking Sideways podcast today, and that's worth going and having another listen to. That certainly was interesting. Again, I'd forgotten a lot of it, and actually I really enjoyed that. And thinking about all those Greg Stump ski movies, I think you'll find Blizzard of Ours on YouTube. If not, I will try and find a version of it that you can watch on our YouTube channel, the Shred Flicks playlist on Thank You Snowboarding on YouTube. If you've never seen it, it is going back in time, but there is so much to dig into, and not only the snowboarding, but the skiing, which for me at the time just blew my mind. The fact that there were people out there doing this thing, doing seasons, holing up in winter resorts just so they could go skiing every day, working in kitchens and just doing dirtbag jobs or whatever. That was definitely what got me into going to the mountains. It wasn't just snowboarding, it was being in the mountains was where I wanted to be, and it was because of that movie. So yeah, that popped up today. I said to Matt that I would talk about it. If you don't know what that is, then yeah, definitely I'll put some links in the show notes to Greg Stump and his stuff, and to Matt's podcast. If you don't listen to Looking Sideways, he's been doing it for years and has spoken to literally the great and the good of snowboarding, but also of action sports. He's traveled the world on it, and he's talked to big American pros and big movers and shakers across the snowboard scene, but also surfing, skating, and other people who are basically generally doing some interesting stuff around the world and pushing things forward. So yeah, big up to you, Matthew, and keep on going. And I really enjoyed hearing the Greg Stump one again. Our friends at the TSA have launched their new website for this winter. It launched, as you're listening to this, it launched yesterday. So there should be all the new product on there, loads more community stuff. It's all good stuff. So go and check them out. Last time I looked, they were doing 10% off your first order online if you want to do that. What I would recommend, and I saw someone post on some Facebook snowboarding group this week that he'd bought a board and it was too thin for his size 11 feet. You don't want to end up in a situation where you're lumped with a board that you've just paid full price for that you can't send back for whatever reason. Go and speak to the people that know. The Snowboard Asylum, and I would say probably any of the independent shops left in the UK. There's not that many of them, and there certainly used to be a lot. But there are a few independent shops left, or the Snowboard Asylum. Definitely go and speak to some people that know what they're talking about and will give you the kit that you need. Reading reviews and whatnot online and choosing a board because of the graphics is all well and good. But you don't want to find that your expensive snowboarding holiday is ruined because you've got kit that isn't right for you. I stress this so much. Boots, you need to get the right fit. It's not the case that you buy them too small and wear them in bed or chop the liners up or any of that bollocks. Basically, get the right stuff. Go into a shop, budget to have a couple of hours in there, get the right stuff, get it fitted to you. Speak to the staff, find out what they know. They've probably been to where you're going, can offer you some tips, some insights. You can watch a movie while your boots fit, all this sort of stuff that will all basically make your holiday or your time on a snowboard better. Can't stress that enough. Don't be the guy that's on a Facebook forum moaning about the fact that he's bought the wrong thing. Don't be that guy. What else is going on? On the 20th, which is next week, if you're listening to this when it's released, there is the Volcom movie premiere up in London. That looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. It's only £5 for a ticket, and there's a free beer, so that is essentially free in my mind. And what else? I think that might be it for this week. Our Instagram is firing on all cylinders. Lots of people liking bits and pieces on that and new followers. So if you are new to the Instagram and you're new to the podcast, welcome along. You are very welcome. All old episodes are up on your favorite podcast platforms and also on YouTube if you want to go and check them out. And if you are new and you haven't liked and subscribed, we'd very much appreciate a review and a like and a follow, and so that each episode fires into your podcast platform around about 10 o'clock on a Thursday morning, which is when I schedule it for. That would be great. Obviously, we want to reach some new people, and thinking about that interview Matt did with Greg Stump, and they're talking about Seal. Man, wouldn't it be great to talk to him? He is a proper OG snowboarder. UK scene. He was on the front cover of Onboard magazine. Be great to talk to him about things, wouldn't it? But people like that only come along if you've got good reviews and plenty of listeners. So please do like and share this around with anyone you know that's been snowboarding or thinking about going snowboarding and just wants to hear from real people who have devoted portions of their life to doing it. I wanted to apologise quickly. Last week's episode with Tim Warwood, I swore quite a lot, and I don't really know why. I think it might have been because we were doing it quite late at night, and after a full day of being a busy music producer and then doing kids' dinner and bedtime and all that sort of thing, I think maybe my tongue just got a bit loose. Anyway, I listened back and I felt sort of a little bit cringe about the amount of swearing that I did, and I apologise if that is in any way offensive. I do try and rein it in, and I will certainly be trying to rein it in a little bit more in the future too. But yeah, I think that's about it for this week. Yeah, I hope you're enjoying these episodes. We've got loads more coming up. I think next week we are going to be talking to a guy called Mon Barber, who owned and ran a shop in Oxford called SS20, and I'm sure plenty of you will have memories of that shop or have bought something from that shop or worn one of their legendary t-shirts. So come back next week to hear a really fun chat I had with Mon. Oh, and I forgot to say the title track on the start of this episode, bit of an interesting one. It's Barrington Levy, a track called Black Black Roses. And Zoe reckons it's off a snowboard movies she watched over and over again back in the day in Chamonix. And judging by the track, I'm assuming it was from some French snowboard movie because French snowboarders seem to like a lot of reggae. I don't mean to be generalising, but certainly from my own experience of sitting around fires in Bourg Saint-Maurice, that the French snowboarders there couldn't get enough reggae. And she mentioned that she was hanging out with Bab Charlet and all that crew. So I could only imagine it was that. I haven't managed to find what movie it was from or any reference to it at all, but I'm going to take Zoe's word for it on this occasion. So yeah, slightly incomplete. I'm also thinking about doing a Spotify playlist of shred songs, obviously, which all our theme tunes will go into. Let me know if you'd like that. You can email me at thankyouSnowboarding@gmail.com if you've got any suggestions on that one, or obviously DM me on Instagram. Thank You Snowboarding Podcast. That would be great. All right, I'm out of here. We'll see you next week. Thank you, snowboarding. Peace.